Alright, so welcome to Honor of Kings tier list. Alright, so this is the first time I'm actually doing an Honor of King tier list. I've been playing Honor of King ever since the global version came out. I've only played about 1.5 months for the China version back in 2018. So honestly, I'm not too familiar with their version over there, their meta over there, but I can comment on the global version. So as for my rank, I'm pick 500, usually between 300 to 500 player. And my rank, honestly, my highest is 25 stars because I've not grinded rank. I don't think I'll ever grind rank because rank honestly is for people with multiple kills, not solo kill. So I personally think pick mode is a lot more fair than ranked. So I'm mainly playing pick mode, but maybe in the future I will just grind rank to see how far we'll go. The thing is, there's a hidden elo system, sort of like the shadow system in Mobile Legends, where if your historical rank or your current rank is high, the system will actually pair you with low ranking players or players with bad win rates in pick mode or in ranked. So when that happens, then you get a very bad experience, which is why I feel like it's good to keep your rank low. If you want to get the rewards, sure. I think there's reward for Grandmaster, reward for Epic. You want to get those rewards, sure, but just get those rewards and don't push your style any further than that. Alright. That's because, as I mentioned before, you don't want to backpack with bad teammates. You want to get paired with good dual kills and trio kills. Because if your dual kill or trio kill sucks, right, in rank, in the higher elo, then there's no way you can beat the enemy dual kill and trio kill. That's my experience sometimes on my account with a high win rate and a high historical rank. So I've actually have 3 accounts at the moment. One of them I keep the historical ranking low so that I can get paired with better teammates and hopefully get the highest possible pick mode ranking. Okay, but today's topic is focused on the tier list. Okay, enough of my introduction. So this just goes to show that I have a little bit of understanding of the game. I have a good understanding of the game, I would say. My mechanical skills are not that great, are not good at all. My reaction time is slow, but I have a very good map sense. I have very good knowledge of what to do in certain situations, and I know the game meta. Okay, so let's just start. Unfortunately, this is the latest version I'm be able to find. I've not been able to find one with the shi in it, and this is for the October version of Honor of Kings. So I think shi came out after October, and then I don't think there's any hero that came out apart from shi missing from this tier list, and we'll do shi separately. And actually, you know what? Let's just put shi down right now. I will say shi goes into between A and S. I don't think it depends on the role, right? Actually, the thing is, this tier list, I can't find a tier list or tier list maker that splits heroes according to their roles. Maybe we'll do that here. Yes, I think we'll do one for the marksman, one for the clash, one for support, one for mage, and one for each role. So I think we'll start with clash first. Alright, so clash, I have to sort of pick heroes out from here. Okay, we'll start with clash lane first. So Agodo and this Alessio is obviously not clash, so we'll start with allain. Allain is definitely S tier. I think everybody can agree that allain is one of the best clash lane out there because of his sheer tankiness and his ability to dish out quite a bit of decent amount of damage. Also his ult makes him so tanky, man, and like waste so much of the enemy's time because he's just zoning all the enemies at the back, right, and the enemies are all like distracted by him and they are sort of separated by their front lines. So while your teammates are wailing on the enemy's frontliners, the enemies C carry units are sort of separated and focus on like dealing with allain, right? And allain is just wasting their time. He uses the item that gives you a massive shield, and his ultimate also gives you a massive shield, so it's double shields. And then when he's using his passive, I think he also gets some sort of damage reduction. Alright, and then he also built tank items, so it's very difficult to kill allain. He's the main thing about him is that he's not that mobile. Alright, he's not there to really deal damage and kill the carry units, although he can do that. He's just there to waste their time. He's a massive time waster. Okay, so you find that once you brought him low, he'll be able to get away with using the shield item, and then your front lines are actually already dead because he's just wasted so much of your time. So that's why he's so strong in my opinion. And also in the clash lanes, there are not many heroes that can defeat him. You really need a very mobile hero like a Mulan to actually kite him. I don't think right now in this global version there's a lot of heroes that can do that. Maybe a mayene can, or not even a fuzi. Allain is not scared of hero that just straight up fight him head on. I think he's more or less the strongest head on hero they can get out there. Alright, along with fuzi. I think you need a hero that can actually kite him, and we'll get to that in a while. But for now, he's sitting at S tier. Okay, next hero will be Arthur. Man, this guy, I would say he's playable. I really don't have a strong opinion, strong view of Arthur. I think he's pretty weak. Yeah, he will not be in the please don't and throw tier, definitely. I'd say he's super beginner friendly, but in high elo, right, I rarely see him in the clash lane. Sometimes he's played occasionally as a support, but I rarely see Arthur in the clash lane. The main problem is him is that his late game is super trash. Why is this the case? Because his ultimate deals a maximum HP based on the enemy's maximum HP amount based on the enemy's HP, right? But the thing is, Arthur does not build any magical pierce. So in the late game, right, a lot of people actually buy gilded boots, and then they have a decent amount of magic defense, maybe from I don't know, some other defense items, right? So you don't build any defense items, magic pierce items on Arthur. So you'll find that his ultimate late game does not that much damage. Alright, unless you are attacking an enemy squishy, right, who didn't go for the gilded boots, you find that you will not be able to do much damage to like tank or warrior heroes, and they will just out damage you straight up. So the correct way to play him is to build tank items of him. His ultimate is honestly just there for show. I would say it's just there to finish off like squishies, but if you use it on warriors, it's not going to do anything in the late game. Alright, and the early game, I would say he's okay. He has a lot of sustain, that's the good thing, but his movement is so predictable, right? And he does not have any dashes, so it's super easy to gank him. It's pretty difficult to kill him, honestly, because he has a lot of HP regen. It also has the passive where if you slow him, his HP regen is a lot faster, it's doubled. But once you have like a slightly high burst assassin, you can honestly kill him super easily. And the late game, right, the marksman completely just melts him because he has no kind of damage reduction. He only has his passive HP regen. So you can have very tanky items, but in the late game, all the mages and all the marksmen usually go for a percentage pierce item, right, ignoring all his defense items. So in the late game, it actually melts very quickly. Alright, that's why I would say he's definitely not a good pick. Alright, definitely not meta hero. And there's honestly a lot of situational heroes that are also better than him and can do a better job and tanking than him. Your role is not really to kill the enemy carry as much as to tank, right? As Arthur. Please don't play like full AD items on Arthur. You get melted so easily and barely do any damage. That's because his ultimate does not scale according to his AD. That's why if you build attack damage on him, his ultimate is still going to do like 24% of the magic damage of the enemy's hero's HP, maximum HP. So it's sort of wasted, right? You don't really want to build stats that are not going to be utilized in these skills, right? It's just a waste of items. If you build defensive item on him, then your AD scaling won't matter, right? Because you don't have any AD on him. Yeah, so all of the Arthur that I've seen in my elo build tank items, full tank items, almost none of them, maybe one attack item, and it's sort of those half tank attack items that give you HP. None of them actually build full AD damage on him. So if you want to play Arthur, go for that route. I would say he's playable in high elo, high-ish elo. In low elo, probably a very common pick as he's one of the easier heroes. Probably the easiest hero. Alright, next will be Arthur. This guy is... he's situational. I don't think he's certainly not Arthur tier. I think he's situational. The problem with him is his rotation is way too slow. Yeah, he takes so long to clear a lane, and then his rotation is way too slow. But he's definitely a lot more useful in team fights than Arthur. Okay, I would say that yeah, his clear speed is slightly slower than Arthur. I would not say very slow. Once you get the burn item on him, he clears the lane slightly slower than Arthur. But then he's a lot more useful in team fights. He's a lot more tanky. He can waste the enemies carry a lot of time, and he has his CC immune, so you can use that to avoid CC by the enemy. So Arthur does not have anything like that. Once you CC Arthur, he's pretty much CC, right? There's no way you can dodge that. But with Arthur, he has his ultimate and his S1, which are CC immune, so can use that to your advantage. Also, I'm not sure if you have damage reduction. Okay, even if it doesn't, your team, the enemy team will also need to build an anti-heal item against him. So that sort of wastes a slot in the enemy's build. Once you get an anti-heal item, he's not that big of a threat, but he's still pretty much like very tanky. That's all I can say, man, because the anti-heal item here compared to AoE's 40% is 35% here. It's kind of lower. So I find that heroes with good healing, right, are actually a lot harder to deal with in here than in AoV. So Arthur is one of those heroes that can heal a lot more than Arthur, in my opinion. Once you are able to stick to someone. The problem with Arthur is that he's very easily kited, right? If you have an entire enemy team like Yuan support, and then like a Marco Polo ADC, it's very difficult for Arthur to get close to a unit to keep attacking on them and keep healing. In high elo, people rarely, I mean, you get people like Zhang Fei, definitely yes, but people will know not to stick next to Arthur in the same way that they know not to stick next to Fuzi. You need to put some distance between you and the enemy so that Arthur cannot heal, and once he can't heal, right, he doesn't have that much tankiness. So you can deal with Arthur that way, but he's still a lot more tanky than Arthur and a lot more useful, which is why his ultimate is a lot more useful than Arthur, and you can use that to zone the enemy, which is why I'm giving him B rank, definitely one tier above Arthur. Okay, next will be Siming. I would say he's also situational. I think this hero is overblown. I'll talk about him in the jungle tier list later on. Usually he builds weaken in the clash lane, and I think the boon about him and why he's stronger than Arthur is that he's pretty tanky, but he has pretty much the same issue as Arthur. He's very good in team fights, I would say. He can tank a lot, and he doesn't do that much damage. I would say almost the same amount as Arthur, maybe slightly higher than Arthur, but not by much. And he's equally as tanky as Arthur, assuming Arthur can stick to his target. The problem with Siming is that he's so predictable, right? He's either coming at you along his S1 or retreating along his S1. So his path, his movement is very predictable. It's not like Allain's ultimate or Allain where he has a dash, right? Siming does not have anything like that. and his ultimate, right, the range is so short. Okay, so if his ultimate has a slightly larger range, then I think this hero is pretty strong. But his ultimate has such small range. Alright, so honestly, he's just there to waste the enemy's time, I feel. His ultimate does not, against a high elo marksman or high elo mage, his ultimate doesn't do anything, because his ultimate will never be able to land. A high elo carry will always be able to dodge his ultimate, because his ultimate just has such a small range, and in high elo, everybody knows how to kite very well. So the problem with Suming is that he can't really assassinate the enemy's backline like Allain can. And I would say he has the same amount of tankiness as Allain, and Arta for that matter. But because he can't assassinate the backline, I have to put him in B tier. And because his move path is so predictable, that's why he's in B tier. I would say A tier maybe is reserved for heroes who cannot really assassinate the backline. Who can do 2 out of these 3 things. Assassinate the backline, that's 1. Tank as much as possible. Very tanky and be a huge distraction in teamfight, that's 2. And then the third one is their movement is very unpredictable. Alright, that's the criteria. I would say for Suming, he only fulfill 1 of them, which is B, very tanky. So that's why he's in B tier. Arthur doesn't really fulfill any of these 3, which is why he's C tier. Okay, let's go with that criteria there. Okay, Biron. Yeah, he's definitely, I would say he's below Arthur. That's because I would say he's not that tanky. Okay, his ultimate makes him pretty tanky, yes, because he gets massive shield. But he's so immobile, he's even more immobile than Arthur. At least Arthur has the speed up, right? Biron, all of his skills almost make him stuck on the spot. Yes, he has a dash with his S2, but his S2 range is so short. I wish they would improve either the speed of his S2 or the range of his S2 by a little bit, because when you see Biron use his S2, right, it's so predictable. You immediately know to run away, and then if you can predict that, right, he will never be able to hit you because the range of his S2 is so short. Alright, as soon as you see him use the moving forward animation, right, just run back in the opposite direction and he won't be able to hit you unless he has flicker. Then that's a different story. A flicker S2 allain is almost unpredictable. I mean, you won't be able to dodge the CC from a flicker allain, but you pretty much have to waste a flicker, and then after that your mobility will be trash. So I feel he's less tanky than Arthur because it does not have any innate regen, and then when he's using his ultimate, right, people know to just sort of disengage and then come at him again when his ultimate shield is gone. Alright, so he's less tanky than Arthur, I would say. His damage is definitely higher than Arthur, but the thing is, it's harder for him to stick to the enemy compared to Arthur. Alright, compared to Arthur and Suming, he's so much less mobile. As again, his ultimate makes him stuck on the spot. His S1 makes him stuck on the spot. His S1 has such a short range. Yes, there's a slightly mobile skill that allows him to sort of move forward a little bit, but that distance is so short. Yeah, I wish it has a larger range. So I think it's pretty bad. I almost want to put him here, but we'll see about this. If I will go through some of these heroes. If I have no heroes in the D and E, I'll put him in the D tier. Okay. Cao, I've never actually seen Cao because they banned him from pick mode. I don't understand why. But honestly, Cao, I'll put him in A tier. He's either top of B tier or A tier. The thing is, his ultimate gives him resistance. That's, I believe, one of the only 3 heroes that get resistance from their skills. The other being this Yangjian and also who else? Nezha, yes, Nezha. So resistance is a stat that's very important in all the kings, and so rarely you have heroes who innately have those stats. Cao Cao's ultimate give him a big amount of resistance. I believe it's like 25%. Okay, and he also gets a bunch of stat boosts from his ultimate. So heroes who have just pure stat boosts from the ultimate, I feel is very powerful because you have one less mechanic to worry about. Alright, it's straight up a stat boost. So you don't really need to care what his ultimate does because you just need to know that it gives you a power up, right? And the thing is, ultimate is so spammable. It's so spammable when it gets CD up. You can spam his ultimate once every like 12 seconds. After his ultimate ends, you get about 12 seconds worth of window at 40% CD. Then he'll be able to use his ultimate again. Alright, and he's so tanky when he's life stealing. And he also have 3. It's pretty short, but if you combine these 3, right, it becomes quite a long dash. Alright, and also I would say he's pretty tanky. Usually a Cao builds weaken. You don't really need a flicker of him because of his dashes, and you also don't really need a purify on him because of his ultimate resistance. So that's why you can afford to use weaken on him and make him a lot more tankier. I would say overall he's a lot more tankier than Arta or Siming because of his ability to just heal by so much with his ultimate, lifesteal by so much. Also his Arta and Siming, I think Siming, I'm not sure if Siming heal according to the damage that it deals to enemy, but I know that Cao, right, it doesn't matter what kind of enemy damage that he deal to enemy, he can be at hitting the enemy shield, but he'll still be regenerating. That's because his regen trigger on hit instead of on dealing damage to the enemy. So even if you hit a fully shielded Zhang Fei, right, you are still restoring health. So his health restoration is a bit more reliable than other life stealing units. Also the ability to spam his ultimate basically makes him you don't really have to go back to the base to heal up. Siming sometimes have to do that as well because his lifesteal is not as consistent as Arta and Cao. So Cao can farm a lot and Arta can farm a lot more. But the thing about Cao is that he's also able to do a lot more damage compared to Arta. For Arta, you need the burn item before you can start dealing consistent damage. While for Cao, right, you can start dealing a ton of damage to enemy jungle, your own jungle monsters, and the enemy at the start of the game. So I would say he's a lot more stronger. He has posed a much greater threat to the enemy backline because of his ability to use 3 dashes. And once he sticks to the enemy, it's pretty hard for the enemy carry to get rid of him because of his high resistance and because of his dashes. Even somebody like Marco might not be able to get away from him. So that's why he's sitting in A tier. Why not S tier? Because he is weak to anti-heal items. There's almost nothing that you can do against allain besides kite him. But against a Cao, you have the option of just buying anti-heal and making him slightly weaker. So that's why he's in A tier. Also, the fact that I've never really seen a Cao before makes it unfair for me to put him at the S tier. But I played Cao quite a bit before he get banned, so a little bit on weird knowledge here. Cao was not banned for a while and was banned later on for some reason in the global version. So I used to play Cao jungle a lot, but then after he get banned, I obviously can't play him anymore. So yeah, if Cao is unbanned, I'll main him as one of my main junglers. Alright, next will be, I've never seen Butterfly, so I'm not going to rank him in Clash Lane. Next will be Charlotte. I would say she's in C tier. Top of C tier though. These are all in sequence. Maybe Siming is in B tier above Arta, but these are all in sequence of merit. I would say Charlotte, ability to, she gets so easily kited, right, and she's stuck on the spot when she's using her passive. She's very good situationally against heroes like Fuzi because of his ability to lower their attack speed. But otherwise she's just not, she's not as tanky as these two heroes over here. She's also fairly easy to kite, just like Arthur and Biron. The good thing about her is that she's able to pose a threat to the enemy backline if you are able to stick to them a lot more than these two guys. Right. She also has an innate dash that can spam quite a lot. Unless I like this guy, this Arthur over here, and I like Biron's dash, which is very a very short distance, her dash is slightly longer and the cooldown is also a lot lower than Arthas, so you can spam it a lot more. And also, I think Charlotte have a much higher skill ceiling compared to these two. But their link clear is pretty slow, I would say. They are generally quite easily kiteable, and they are not that tanky. That's why she's in C tier. Okay, next will be Dharma. This guy is probably the top Clash lane right now. This guy is the bane of so many carries out there because of his flicker S1. His flicker S1, once used by like somebody with a decent understanding of the game, with decent mechanics, is so deadly to the enemy carry because it's so unpredictable and it has such a huge range. The thing about Dharma is that he can be fighting your tank in front of you, quite far away from you, maybe a tower worth of distance apart from you, and then he can suddenly use S1 and S1 as flicker to get next to you and out you into a wall. So when your teammates are fighting a Dharma, right, you don't know whether to move forward as like a carry because you are never sure when his ultimate or when his flicker S1 is ready. So you can never be sure of what Dharma is going to do because he can immediately just flicker next to you and out into a wall and then kill you. He has such an insane amount of burst damage. He has such an insane amount of consistent damage thanks to his S2. And then his S2, right, is also not susceptible to CC because you certainly cannot keep using his S2 while it's being CC'd. But once the CC sort of ended, right, his S2 is not interrupted at all. So if his S2 is able to be interrupted by CC skills, then I'll say he's probably weaker than allain. But the fact that he's able to continue using his S2 after getting CC is absolutely insane to me. And that's why he can do consistent damage, he can do burst damage. He has very unpredictable movements. And he's such a big threat to the enemy backline. And he also has decent regen, sustain. Definitely not as good as these guys. Maybe around Siming's level, but he's pretty consistent, right? And the fact that he fulfills the two criteria, which is unpredictable movement, tankiness. Oh, by the way, he was also pretty tanky because his passive gave him a decent amount of AD and AP defense. Yeah, so he's tanky, he's unable to be interrupted with CC skills, he deals consistent amount of damage, he deals burst damage, he like has good sustain. All these factors makes him the best hero out there. I don't think even allain has that because allain doesn't have that much sustain compared to Dharma, and honestly he's pretty easily kiteable as well, unlike Dharma, who is almost unkiteable, okay, because of his ability to store his S1, meaning he get multiple dashes in teamfight, and also because of his super unpredictability, right? He has such a long movement distance thanks to his flicker and his dash. Usually you will never use a flicker as an allain, meaning that he's able to, once the enemy carry is in range of Dharma's skills, right? So, sorry, let's put it another way. Once the enemy is able to hit Dharma, that range, right, is the distance that Dharma would be able to flicker S1 onto the enemy. So as soon as the enemy carry get into range, he can do that. So the enemy carry will not be able to get anywhere close to him until they know that Dharma has no flicker. So by using this knowledge, right, Dharma can just zone the enemy carry so far away, and your team can just wail on their tanks, while the enemy carry just sort of back away and can't go any further than that because a good Dharma will just immediately flicker S1 onto them. So I would say he's definitely the best, if not one of the best Clash lane out there. I'm not sure if there are better Clash lanes out there, but in my personal opinion, he's definitely the best out there. Dharma is pretty much the most popular Clash Lane hero in my elo, and I would say from my experience, he's also the most impactful. His lane clear is also pretty decent. This guy over here is not that consistent lane clear, thanks to them having to build tank items. But on Dharma, you can just go semi-tank, and you're still pretty tanky thanks to your passive. Yeah, so his lane clear is absolutely nuts, also thanks to his super long duration of his S2. So that's why he's sitting comfortably at the top. Alright. I never see a Tianwei Clash Lane, so I'm not going to rank him. Maybe a Donghuang. Donghuang, I would say he's honestly C tier. He's pretty impactful in team fights, above these guys over here. I would say that in terms of team fight, he'll be here. Team fight usefulness, he'll be here. But the thing is, his lane clear is absolutely garbage. In the late game, nobody will be able to push out the wave out. Donghuang will not be able to solo push a wave. He's there mainly as a person to fight in the team fight. So if you are going against a fuzi or even the dharma or any of these warriors, right? They can just push your lane, and then Donghuang will not be able to deal with them. Especially when you get near the 20-minute mark, the minion Donghuang will not be able to deal with the minion at all. Even with the burn item, Donghuang just deals so little damage to the minion that you'll just be stuck in the lane clearing minion waves and never be able to participate in the team fight. Unless your jungler goes and push the wave out, you are pretty much screwed for that game. So because Donghuang is his lane clear is so absolutely garbage. Yes, he has a decent amount of lane clear at the start, but he does not scale well with the median HP. So he has better teamfight potential than these three guys over here. I would say comparable to these two guys, but slightly less than these two guys. But because of his inability to push a wave out, I would say he's sitting at the bottom of C tier or even D tier. Actually, let's put him at D tier. Please don't play Donghuang Clash Lane. I've never seen a Donghuang Clash Lane high low, so only in like diamond rank do I see him. Okay, next will be Tuan. Tuan. I would say he's here above Arthur. That's because the recent buff to him has made him pretty tanky and deal quite a good amount of damage. But the thing is, he's so predictable like Arthur. His S1, you have been pretty much stuck on the spot. You have to CC yourself in order to use it. And he's pretty tanky. To be fair, he's as tanky as these two guys over here. Once your passive is up, and his passive has a pretty short cooldown, so just assume that his passive is always up. The thing is, he's so immobile, man. He's even more immobile than Arthur. Yes, he's more tanky than Arthur, and his ultimate is a bigger threat to the backline than Arthur. But he's so immobile. His downside is that he's so immobile. When he's casting his S1, it's pretty much stuck on the spot. So, maybe above Charlotte, I would say. Just because of his, no, less than Charlotte, I would say. Because of his ability to tank. But he has less mobility than Charlotte. He has less wave clear potential than Charlotte. In the late game, he is not able to deal with a split pusher at all. He will not be able to push the minion waves out. And your jungler have to cover for you, so he won't be able to contest for the objectives. And then he is super easily kited by the enemy. He also doesn't deal that much damage or tank as much compared to all of these meta heroes out there. That's why he's sitting in C tier. At least these two heroes, right? They can tank a lot more. They have like a unique feature. As one of the trees I mentioned, which is tankiness, ability to clear the lane, unpredictability, and threat to the backline, and tankiness. I'm not sure if I included that there, but these guys, at least they excel in one of these fields. These guys are here because they don't excel in any of those fields. I would say that his best trait is his ability to tank, but then again, his ability to tank is less than these guys over here, less than all of these guys over here. So he doesn't have a standout area, which is why he's in C tier. He's still better than donghuang because he's able to clear minion wave at least better than donghuang, and he's also a bigger threat to the enemy backline than donghuang over here. Alright, next will be fuzi. I would say he's maybe bottom of S tier or top of the A tier. That's because in the late game, right, in 1v1 situation, he's almost unbeatable. Or I'll say almost because I think allain can still beat him. But in the late game, his S2 just gives him that huge amount of damage reduction that he can win one-on-one fights against most Harry units. Unfortunately, his downside, actually let's put him at the top of the A tier. Unfortunately, he's too easily kiteable. Okay, his S1 is so predictable, and his S2, his movement is so predictable because it doesn't have the dash skills. Yes, he has his flicker out, but once you use your flicker, it's so hard for him to flicker out onto the enemy backline unless they have some kind of positioning error. But usually the enemy carry is behind a tank. You can certainly do your stacks on the enemy tank first, wait for the enemy carry to get close, and then flicker out onto them. But I would say it's very hard for you to do that because usually there are a lot of enemy heroes in front of the enemy carry, and for fuzi to do that, you need a clear path. So that is not always available in team fights. But he definitely is super tanky when he gets his S2 up. And then the late game, right, once you get your 20% cooldown item and your 10% cooldown from the item that gives you damage reduction, you can stack the damage reduction from the item with his S2 passive to give you a huge amount of damage reduction. He also get like 36% CD, 6% from the Arcana, his HP Arcana, the green one, and also the other 30% from his items. So his S2 has a super short cooldown, and you are also able to reduce his S2 cooldown further by wailing on the enemy. And once he gets his passive up, he has a huge amount of attack speed. So you don't really need that much attack speed item on him. He can keep refreshing his S2 and become super tanky. He's probably, I would say, one of the most tanky hero out there. I would say he's more or less as tanky as these guys over here. And actually as tanky as all of these guys over here. These guys are all equally as tanky. But I would say a benefit of him is that he excels in lane pushing. He's able to push the lane out and get towers down a lot better than these guys over here. Or maybe not a lot, but better than this guy. Certainly better than these two guys, and better than all of these guys over here by a mile. He's known for split pushing, right? So yeah, and he's also super tanky. The problem with him is that he has significant weaknesses, unlike these two guys over here. These two guys don't have significant weakness. This guy over here has a weakness that is weak to anti-heal. Alright, this guy over here is weak because his early game is trash. Alright, before you get his attack speed item up and his cooldown up, he has such a huge amount of dependence on attack speed items. And also, he scales a lot better. By the way, his attack speed growth is 4%, which is the highest in game compared to any other units out there. So it's extremely good scaling, which is why the late game is absolute monster. But in the early game, he's just so not impactful. So if your early game actually you get wrecked early game, maybe you don't have that much map awareness and then you get ganked a few times. His early game, by the way, it's also very difficult for him to disengage. His only dash is your ultimate. Once you use your ultimate to get away, right, you don't really have any combat ability left. So it's pretty easy to gank him compared to all of these other heroes in the early game. His early game is very weak as well. It's not impactful in teamfight at all. He's a late game monster, yes, but you have to hold out until you get to the late game. So that's his glaring weakness over here, which is why he can only be in the A rank. Even though it's late game, he's a monster late game. He can tank a lot, he can deal consistent damage, better than Cao, better than these two guys over here, on the same level as these two guys over here. He can also tank a lot and better than these three guys over here, and not the same level as these two guys. But in his early game, it's just too horrible. Yeah, you pretty much need to ignore your enemy, ignore your teammate, and then just focus on just split pushing allain in the early game, and then when the enemy clash lane go and support their team in the level 4 fight, right? Usually at around the 2-3 minute mark, there's a fight that will break out. There's a mini skirmish that will break out for objectives, and then the enemy clash lane will usually go over to support the enemy's team. And then as a fuzi, right, you should not choose to go and support your own team. You should just focus on pushing the minion wave into their tower, and then go and cut their wave off. We call that 断线 in Chinese, which is you push deep into the enemy territory, clear their minion waves, the second minion wave, and then let your next minion wave crash into your tower. So the enemy clash lane have to sacrifice 2 waves in order to go and support their team. That's the correct way to play fuzi, and not to sort of teleport over to help your teammates in the early game. Because if his early game fighting potential is absolute garbage, without his item and without his cooldown and attack speed items, he will not be able to do much, and he will just die a lot. So you pretty much need to play in a pretty self-centered way, but in the late game you are an absolute monster. So it depends on whether you get to a late game or not. That's why I can only put him A tier because of his glaring weakness. He's definitely not able to help be as beneficial to your team in the early game, even compared to these guys over here. I would say it's less beneficial than these guys over here to in the early game, but his late game potential is absolutely monstrous. That's why he's in A tier, and that's why I'm unable to put him S tier. Alright, next will be Guanyu. Yep. I would say he's maybe at the top of C tier. In high low. Yeah, let's put it high low, cause I've not seen that much Guanyu around. The problem with Guanyu is that he's way too easily affected by CCs and slow. Alright, it's very situational. Maybe at the bottom of B tier. He's a lot more impactful than these guys over here, and even these 2 guys over here. He's super impactful in team fights. Unfortunately, he requires a lot of mastery of the hero, and he's also super scared of CC, because you can interrupt his skills obviously with a CC or slow skills. So once he's CC'd or slow in the team fight, and once the enemy backline knows to pay attention to their back, alright, if the enemy supports know to in Chinese we call that guanyu rao ho, which means that Guanyu is coming from the back. Okay, once your teammate knows that that's the strategy that all of the Guanyu uses basically, and once the support knows to sort of leave his CC skills for Guanyu, it's going to be super difficult for Guanyu to just do what he usually does, which is come in from the behind and use his ultimate to ult a bunch of people forward. I would say because of his incredibly inconsistency in team fights, he definitely has the highest team fight ceiling out there. I would say among all these heroes, he's super impactful in team fight. Is that if the enemy is not aware of him, but in high elo, a lot of the players know how to deal with him and leave CC skills for him, because of his reliance on the enemy's team being pretty CC light. He's pretty scared of CC, as I mentioned before. You need the enemy team to be CC light before you use Guanyu. And honestly, he's not that tanky. He's definitely less tanky than all these guys over here. Because of that, I can only put him B tier. Yes, his team fight potential is crazy, but his split pushing ability is meh. His ganking ability is good, but he's way too inconsistent, I would say. That's why very few people use him. Also, when you are playing him, right, you pretty much have to hold your hand on the joystick for the entire game, which is why it's also extremely straining on your hand. So that's the reason why he's so unpopular, and that's the reason why I have to put him here. He's definitely better than all of these guys here. Is the highest, again, there's one outstanding area of him, which is his team fight potential. That's why he's sitting up here, but he's not going to be any higher than this, thanks to his very mediocre performance in the other areas, which is tankiness, consistency, and also split push ability. He doesn't excel in any field besides team fights. Alright, let's see. heino, maybe heino. I would say heino is top of C tier. He's pretty much there. He can't do anything. He's pretty much a tank. He's like a walking. He's like a donghuang basically, but a donghuang with range, and a donghuang with damage dealing potential, and a donghuang that he's basically like a, how to put it, he's a huge distraction for the enemy. But he does not do any amount of damage at all to the enemy. He poses zero threat to the enemy backline. He's just there as a, like, how to put it, like a walking statue. He's just there as a, like a damage sponge. He does not do anything to the enemy backline at all, other than be a damage sponge. But he's such a huge, like, annoying damage sponge. He might be the tankiest hero out there, because if you build tank item on him and if you have your ultimate, you're basically unkillable. He's more tanky than all of these guys. He's probably the most tanky heroes among all of these guys over here. But he has zero threat to the backline. All of these heroes at least have some threat to the backline. He has none. Alright, it's the same as Donghuang, but he's just so tanky. That's why he's better than Donghuang. That's why he's a tier up. His lane push potential is also okay, because his S2 actually goes forward in a straight line, so he can deal with the minion wave that way. So he has okay amount of speed push potential. The problem with him is the glaring weakness is that he have no threat to the enemy backline, so the enemy can just ignore him and then proceed with a team fight as normally. So the marksman knows to just go around him. If the marksman is a Marco Polo with a dash, they'll just basically ignore him and then go forward and kill the enemy. In high elo, right, people just ignore the heino. The jungler will not come to gank the heino. They will just leave the heino as he is. Even the clash lane, the heino's opponent will just ignore him and go and assist the enemy. Assist his own teammate to fight your team. And then he'll just leave you there. You can't split push. Even if you get the minion wave into a tower somehow, there's nothing you can do. You can't even go and assist your teammate. He's a hero that is able to play solo. Pretty much it's a very solo-centric playstyle. And it's not as impactful as Fuzi in the late game, where at least he has monstrous split push, sustain, like teamfight potential. Heino has none of that. That's why he's in C tier. He certainly excels in one area as tanking, but his other area is way too lacking. That's why overall I would say he's in C tier and not any higher than that. Alright, next will be Kaiser, I would say. Kaiser is sitting at the bottom of B tier. Yeah, he's pretty tanky, and with Flicker he's a big threat to the enemy backline. Maybe over here, before Arta. Unfortunately, his movement is just so incredibly predictable. He relies too much on camping. If you can spot a Kaiser on the map, it's pretty much impossible for the Kaiser to assassinate the enemy backline. In high elo, he's played purely as a pure tank. Maybe one damage item, that's it. And that damage item is actually the tanky item that gives you a damage negation. That's all. Again, he's super tanky when his ultimate up, but his ultimate only lasts for 8 seconds and it's a very long cooldown. And people know to just kite him, right? He's extremely tanky for the 8 seconds, probably the tankiest hero of all of these guys, comparable to Heino when he's his ultimate phase. But once you just kite him and keep him slow, keep him within your reach after his ultimate end, he'll just die immediately. So that's the reason why I can't put him any higher than this. He's more consistent at guanyu. He does not suffer for any fatal flaw, but he's just so easily kiteable. Sort of like this guy over here. That's why he's here. I like this guy over here. This guy is at least tanky throughout the entire game. This guy is only tanky when it's in his ultimate. So yeah, that's why he's sitting in here. But again, his flicker, if you build sort of half tank item on him, and if you use your flicker correctly, right, you pose a decent amount of threat to the enemy backline. Alright, unfortunately, compared to these two guys, his lane clear in the late game is pretty horrible. I would say that these two guys have even better lane clear than this guy over here. So because of that, also he's focused on dealing damage to a single target, enemy target. Usually the minion waves come in threes, and then you will not be able to target a minion individually. This guy at least have AoE skills. All of their skills are AoE, so they clear a minion wave fairly easily. This guy cannot. He takes quite a long time to clear a minion wave. Okay, and he certainly have good teamfight potential again thanks to his ultimate. I'm not saying that when his ultimate up he's trash. The reason he's not that great is because he's super easily hideable, and his ultimate has a fairly long cooldown. So in high-low, people know to just play around his ultimate. Alright, next hero will be Lam, I would say. Lam is sitting at the bottom of 8 here. I would say he's better played as a jungler, but usually Clash Lane Lam use weaken, and the reason why Lam is here is because his lane clear is good. He's actually has one of the faster lane clear comparable to these guys over here. Definitely better than all of these guys in terms of lane clear, and he's also a huge threat to the enemy backline thanks to his many dashes, and his dashes are relatively short cooldown. If you use your S2 immediately after his S1, his S1 cooldown is halved, so it's able to spam his S1 a lot. The problem with him is that he's better played as a jungler because his early game scaling is bad. If you are not a jungler, your early game is not as bad as fuzi, but it's probably not that great compared to all these guys over here. So that's the reason why he's in A tier, but can't be any more higher than that. Fuzi as a glaring weakness that his early game is super horrible. This guy early game is not that horrible, but he has late game potential is a lot less than Fuzi, I would say. Let's see, is there any problem with him? Actually, I would say he's above top, pretty much above caocao. He's below Fuzi in terms of Clash Lane. But honestly, the reason why I'm here and not at the top of A tier is because he's better suited for jungler. I will elaborate on him in the jungler tier list. Okay, next will be... Okay, when this guy is using... He's also pretty reliant on healing. So if the enemy build anti-heal items, then his ability to fight is hampered a little bit. Once he spams his S2, right, his mobility, yes, he can sort of go around a lot thanks to his empowered auto attack, auto aiming, his empowered AA auto aiming. But you can't really control the direction in which he's going once he's going crazy, right? So there's a lot of situations where he outs onto he gets all in onto a team fight, but then his empowered AA directs him onto a tank, and then he'll just keep hitting a tank because once he uses his mobility skills to engage a team fight, right, it's very difficult for him to properly make him sort of refocus onto another target. So if he accidentally goes onto a tank, right, he'll just focus on the tank and not be able to refocus back onto the enemy carry, which is why he's a lot less mobile. Actually, now that I think about it, maybe less than caocao. Because of the glaring weakness, I can only put him here. He is very tanky thanks to his weaken. He does not need to use purifier, nor does he need to use dashes, because he has a lot of dashes already. The problem with him is that he's inconsistent in teamfight. That's it. Because of his inability to focus on the enemy or a certain designated enemy unit. Otherwise, his lane push ability is great. His sustain is decent thanks to his weaken and thanks to his healing. But his again, as I mentioned before, is his ability to focus target that's very important, and is like kind of inconsistent. Lixin, I would say, well, I've seen very good lixin, man. The thing why lixin is so powerful, right, is that if you use your ultimate in the bush, you can pretty much destroy the enemy backline with 1-3A, 1A combo. I have to put him in below Siming, I would say. He has very good wave clear potential thanks to his S1. I'm only talking about light lixin here, dark lixin. Almost nobody play dark lixin in the elo I'm in. And his teamfight potential is good because of his absurd amount of range on all of his skills. Unfortunately, he's way too squishy and is way too prone to assassins. He has very good lane clear potential. He has decent amount of sustain thanks to his innate ability to heal with his S1, with his Empower AA. And what else? His teamfight potential is decent. There's a very glaring problem with him, is that he's super prone to assassins, and then his early game is pretty trash. He needs a lot of CD items and damage items in order to pop off. So he's like these guys over here where the early game is trash but late game is decent. But the thing is, his late game potential, he's equally squishy late game, right? And is equally susceptible to burst in the late game and in the early game. In the early game, he's just basically before level 4, he's just a super minion, right? His human form is absolutely garbage. So he can't pretty much do anything against an enemy invade in the early game. And he needs a lot of items to pop off. So his early game is easily one of the worst among all the heroes here. And his late game potential is not as high as these guys over here. And he's also super weak to assassins, which is why he's here. None of these guys are weak to assassin. If an assassin jump on them, they can all counter attack. This guy can't. If an assassin get close to you, you're pretty much screwed. Alright, let's see. Lianpo, I've never seen the Lianpo clash lane in my elo, so I'm just gonna leave him out. Liubang clash lane. I would say he's at bottom of B tier. Situational. Thanks to his rework, he has better lane clear than before, but his lane clear is still one of the weaker ones out there. His S1 does give him a shield, but he has no innate damage reduction, so he's not very tanky. Compared to some of these other heroes, he's a lot less tankier than these guys over here. He has a lot of teamfight potential. His teamfight potential is super high, but he has three very glaring weaknesses. First is that his lane push potential is bad. In the late game, you find it very difficult to push the lane out without the help of your jungler around. A second weakness is that his movement is very predictable, because his dash is, you need to charge your dash up, and then while you're charging you have the animation, right, so the enemy immediately knows where you are going. You are pretty much also facing the direction where you are charging, so it's very easy to predict his movement. Second thing is no, that's the second thing. The first thing is that his lane push potential is horrible, so it's extremely susceptible to lane pushers, split pushers in the late game. Also, he's not that tanky. He certainly has a shield, but he has no damage reduction, so a lot less tankier than these guys over here. So overall, I would say that he's here. He has too many glaring weaknesses. Yes, his teamfight potential is very good, same as these guys over here, but his downsides are way more amplified than Guanyu, I would say. Ability to lane clear, that's one. Not very tanky, that's two. Movement very predictable, that's three. And almost zero threat to the enemy backline, that's 4. Okay, so because of that, I have to rate him lower than 1. As a support, he's actually better. So yeah, I've seen a lot of liubang clash lane. Is a lot more popular than Guanyu. Unfortunately, his inability to split push is a glaring weakness, I would say. As a clash laner, one of our main responsibility to split push, and because of his absolutely terrible split push potential, I'm sorry, but he has to be here. I would not, maybe above Guanyu. I would say it's above Guanyu. His team fight potential is on par with Guanyu, and he does not suffer from the problem of inconsistency. Yeah, but basically the same problem as Guanyu. Not the same problem as Guanyu. Too many weaknesses. Too many big weaknesses. At least Kaiser, right, for example, doesn't have a huge glaring weakness. He's pretty easily kiteable, yes, but Liubang is as well. But at least he has good tankiness, he has good wave clearing potential. Liubang doesn't have any of those. Okay, or maybe it's, I would say it's not fair to say that he has none of those, but he doesn't do well in any of those. And Kaiser does a decent job at them. These guys are all not clash leaners. Okay, mayene. Let's go with mayene. I would say he's lowest S rank. The problem, the good thing about her is that her early game is good. It's better than somebody like fuzi. It's better than any of these 3 guys here. Actually, these 3 guys, right, their early game is not that great, which is another downside of them. But mayene's early game is great. It's actually higher compared to these 2 guys over here. But the problem with her is that she poses not a lot of threat to the enemy backline. And she's also a lot less tankier than these guys over here. The main thing about her and why she's in S tier is because she has a lot of sustain thanks to her healing ability. And she's extremely mobile. She's probably the most mobile hero compared to all of these guys over here. But she does not do any consistent damage, and is not that much of a threat to the enemy backline. As soon as you avoid her 1-1 combo, right, using a flicker or any kind of dash skills, then her ability to follow up with damage is severely hampered. Because it pretty much requires her S1 to deal damage, and you need to use 2 phases of her S1 to deal a good amount of damage. Once you use your 2 charges of S1, your damage dealing potential is severely hampered. So once you can dodge her double S1 combo, right, she pretty much doesn't pose any threat to you at all after that. But she's so mobile, and she is able to zone the enemy a lot in team fights. She's basically there as a distraction, sort of like allain. The problem with her is that she's very easily bursted down, unlike allain. She's very mobile, yes, but less mobile than some assassins out there. So if the assassin focuses on her, right, unlike these 2 guys, the assassin can actually burst her down before she is able to get away. So that's her weakness. But otherwise, in terms of split push potential, in terms of threat to the enemy backline, in terms of tankiness, sustainability, she's up there, definitely up there. Again, her only glaring weakness is that she's extremely prone to assassin. So in high elo, the assassin knows to focus on her. So the assassin can actually adopt a strategy where the assassin protects his own backline, as opposed to trying to go for the enemy backline. So if the assassin is around, and then mayene make a mistake of jumping onto your enemy carry, then she can just be bursted down immediately. All of these guys don't have that problem. They're all pretty tanky, but mayene definitely has that problem. Why she's up here is because she has insane mobility skills, so she's able to disengage and re-engage fairly easily, alright, making her a extreme distraction to the enemy, and able to zone the enemy away from their front line. Also good sustain, good wave clear. She's good in all aspects, but she doesn't have one aspect that she has the mobility aspect that makes her stand out. But the thing is, usually your mobility needs to allow you to do something like kill the enemy carry. That's the kill the enemy carry and get out. That's the ultimate goal of having a mobile unit. But her inability to really kill the enemy carry puts her here. She pretty much there as a distraction. Again, once you avoid her 1-1 combo, right, she's not hard to deal with at all. Unlike these two guys, they can constantly re-engage on the enemy carry if you avoid any of their combo. But for her, right, she's so reliant on a 1-1. Once she depletes her 1-1, she has no threat to the enemy carry, and then needs to get away, run away immediately after that. That's why I can only put at the bottom S tier. But again, she's definitely not weak. I'm not saying that she's weak. She just have one weakness compared to these two guys. These two guys have no weakness. She has one weakness, which is that she's prone to assassins. But I've seen very good mayene that can also get away with their mechanical skills. So they hard engage onto enemy carry, and then is able to get away before the entire enemy team catch up to her. So I've seen those kind of mayene as well, but I would say it's less consistent than these two guys out there. And requires a much higher skill ceiling compared to these two guys. Mulan. Well, we have a fair bit of heroes to go through. Mulan, I would say, is sitting at, is very dependent of the player skill, but is sitting at the top of B tier. Maybe at the bottom of A tier, I would say. No, I would say at the generally at the top of B tier. She has one glaring weakness. She's very tanky actually. When she's using her heavy sword form. She is just very mediocre in all fields. She doesn't stand out in terms of tankiness. She is tanky, but she doesn't stand out. She is able to clear the lane well, push the lane forward well, but doesn't stand out in the area compared to these guys. The linker's potential is pretty average. Then her teamfight potential is average. She's quite reliant on her flicker. Without a flicker, if the enemy knows to ping to her teammates that her flicker is on cooldown, she doesn't have that much fighting potential in teamfight compared to some of these guys out here. She has no sustain. That's a huge downside. Oh my god, maybe put her at B tier. Yeah, her lack of sustain is really bad. She's very mobile, so she's able to assassinate the enemy backline and get out immediately. That's a strong suit. But her glaring downside is that she has no sustain. Okay, so she has one strong field that she excels in. She's decent in other field, but she has one glaring weakness in that she has no sustain. So that's why it's either at top of B tier or bottom of A tier. I would say maybe at bottom of A tier, because I've seen very good Mulan out there. But her 1v1 potential is just not that great. But she's able to get away from ganks thanks to a very high mobility skills. And she's also able to assassinate enemy carry and get out. She's sort of like an assassin. She's sort of like a watered down mayene, I would say. But a more tankier version of mayene. But again, a mayene without any kind of sustain. So that's why she's here. Let's go with Nezha next. How many heroes? Like Sunce, Nezha, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, and that's it. Okay, let's go with Nezha next. I would say Nezha is above Mulan. Where is it? Above this guy. I'm not sure if it's above Lam. I think I'll just put it above Lam because I honestly feel like Lam is better in the jungle. Nezha is able to absorb so much damage in teamfight. He's super tanky in teamfight thanks to his ability to refresh his own shield. Once his passive, once he deals damage to an enemy unit, it will add on to his shield, making him super tanky. Although he has no innate mobility skills, movement skills, his S2 is not really I would say is not really considered a movement skill, but his passive allow him to get a massive speed boost. That's why he's pretty mobile in teamfights as well. He also is a pretty big threat to the enemy backline, I would say, because you can use his ultimate to directly target the enemy backline, right? And you're also very tanky because almost all the nerfs are built tank item, and while still being able to deal a good amount of damage thanks to his true damage burn. He's also pretty mobile, yes. Is there any huge flaw that he has? I would say he doesn't have that big of a flaw. His only flaw is that his wave clear potential is not that high. It's okay, serviceable, but it's less compared to some of the meta heroes out there. Late game he will have problem dealing with the minion waves, but his ability to sort of act as a distraction in team fight and as sort of a threat to the enemy backline makes him super good. His movement is pretty predictable once there's no enemy target next to him for him to use his S2. But he can easily just tank throughout that and find a jungle monster to sort of use his S2 on and get away. So I have to put him here. Yeah, his ability to sort of teleport to anywhere on the battlefield using his ultimate onto the enemy carry makes him super good, and it's also ability to tank while dealing considerable amount of damage makes him one of the best clash lane out there. But he has a glaring weakness, is that his linker potential is bad. I think that's pretty much it. Also, it's pretty easily kiteable once there's no enemy unit around. So I would say he's here. Alright, he has two glaring weakness. Not glaring, fairly big weakness. Compared to Mayene only weakness is prone to assassin. Nezha's weakness, he has also another weakness I just realized. He can engage on the enemy very easily, yes, but he doesn't have that big of a disengage skill, especially when his ultimate is on cooldown. So in the early game, right, he's actually fairly easily gankable. Yeah, because his ultimate allows him to charge forward but not go backward. He can use his ultimate on his own tower, I guess, to get away. But the thing is, as ultimate has such a huge charge time, so before he can get his defense item up, right, it's fairly easy for an enemy assassin to burst him down. So because of these reasons, he's sitting in the middle of the A tier, and it's not S tier. Let's see. I want to put King of Lanling. I've not seen Lanling's clash. Let's not put Lanling clash in the tier list. Let's not put Musashi clash as well. I guess I'll put Lanling clash. Lanling clash is here. Maybe here. His speed push potential is crazy, off the chart, because of the ability to push the lane and just go invisible. But he has almost no teamfight potential. He's pretty much a hero that he plays solo. I would say that's it. He's pretty prone to assassin, yes, because if you shoot yourself and use your combo and you are unable to kill the enemy backline, then you're just immediately dead, because the assassin will just hard engage onto you. The enemy assassin will engage onto you before you go invisible, and if the support knows how to play, they'll be able to use the support item to show yourself, to reveal yourself. His early game invade potential is crazy though. He has very good lane clear at the end also. That's why he's sitting at B tier. But he's very bad teamfight potential, and his sort of all-in nature. If you avoid his combo, then he has very little follow-up after that before he gets invisible, and that window is enough for somebody to come and burst him down in high elo, and people will know to do that. So for those reasons, I can only put him here. Maybe below Arta, I would say. These two guys are interchangeable. Maybe because it's a solo queue, right? So maybe he's here, because the teammates don't have that much communication. But definitely not any higher than that because of his two glaring weaknesses. Very prone to assassins. Oh yeah, he need to show himself in order to wave, clear any wave, and that window opens him up to assassins. I would say assassin gangs. I would say he's here, above lixin but below Ata. Okay. Next is sunce. Sunce is definitely S tier. I would say less than allain, but higher than mayene because of his crazy teamfight potential. His ultimate allows him to, let me think. Against a sunce, right? If the enemy being a purify skill, you can use your purify to just tank his ultimate. And usually a sunce will immediately just use his stun and use his S1 after his ultimate. So if you use your purify to eat up all those CC skills, then he's just basically left on the spot there and is basically left immobile, rendered immobile. He has one very glaring weakness compared to all of this. I say excels, his linker is good. He's very tanky thanks to his passive. He is a significant threat to the enemy backline. He also has decent amount of sustain thanks to his empower AA. Not as great as these guys though. His sustain is definitely not that good. But his teamfight potential is just insane at the start. He's able to constantly assist his own teammate thanks to his ultimate. His CC potential is also crazy in teamfight. A good sunce will always use his ultimate unexpectedly, like in a bush or something, and then be able to CC a bunch of the enemy at once. It's an AoE CC, sort of like Dharma's ultimate. So he has a super strong teamfight potential. His wave clear is okay, his tankiness is okay, his sustain is okay. But he has one glaring downside. That is, he's too scared of CC immunity. If the enemy actually dodges your first stun, and then a good sunce, right, will know to, if your enemy is using a purifier or something, a sunce will out you and then use his S2 combo after that and leave his S1 open. He will not just immediately spam his S1 or stun after he outs onto you and see that you use a purify skill. But again, I would say he has a glaring weakness. Once you block his ultimate, once enemy tank or enemy support goes and block his ultimate, right, his mobility skill in the teamfight is actually not that much. Yeah, so he has one glaring weakness in that once you block his ultimate, he's pretty much screwed. He has a very good disengage with his ultimate, but if the assassin managed to get in front of him and block his ultimate, then he doesn't have any options to get away. Unlike a mayene. So his disengage skills is a lot less than mayene. But because of his crazy teamfight potential, and because of his good performance in all the other few, I would say weakness to CC is not that big of a downside. A lot of these other people here are weak to CC immune. Sunce is just more in that regard. So it's not really a huge weakness, but it is a weakness, which is why he's not higher than these two guys. These two guys are basically have no counter to them. Okay. Let's see. Let's go with this guy next, Ukyo. I don't know what his Tachibana or something. I've not seen that much Ukyo to really talk about him. Man. I can't really comment on him, I'm sorry. He is viable as a clashing pick, but I've not seen that much Ukyo to comment on him. Okay, instead of King. Not seen enough to comment. I honestly don't know how good he is in the clash lane, because I've pretty much seen only one or two Ukyo clash lane. But I know he's viable as a clash lane. I would say his early game damage potential is crazy, but then his scaling is pretty bad. So his late game potential is bad. So if you invade aggressively with him, maybe he'll do quite well. That's all I can say about him. Wuyan. I would say he's here. Mm, she is pretty tanky. She is okay-ish tanky thanks to her passive, while still dealing a decent amount of damage to the enemy. Unfortunately, her movement is just so predictable. She has okay lane clutch potential thanks to her S2. Her S1 is a short range dash, but at least she got a dash. And she has a shield thanks to her passive. The problem is that she's way too predictable. She's sort of like an Arthur, but a better Arthur because she excels in quite a decent amount of fields. At least she has a dash. Nah, I can only put her. No, I will put her here in B tier. She is okay. She's not situational, she's just okay. There's not really a hard counter to her. I guess the only counter to her is to kite her. She's pretty easily kiteable, but she's just very mediocre in all fields. That's why she's here. Her teamfight potential is meh, her tankiness is meh. She has no sustain. Oof, that's a big problem. Even Charlotte have a sustain. You know what? Never mind. Let's just put Charlotte over here. Wuyan. Charlotte, actually, if Charlotte and you were switch place, Charlotte is at least situational against attack speed heroes like Fuzi. But this guy is just mediocre. That's all I can say about her. So yeah, it'll be something like this. Let's see. Xiangyu. Oh, Xiangyu's flicker ultimate potential is crazy, but again, once he uses his flicker ultimate, it's pretty much dead. Because usually he only uses his flicker ultimate when he's low. He's way too susceptible to burst damage. His lane clear is okay. His tankiness is not really okay. But his flicker out is insanely hard to dodge and there's an insanely huge range. He's very powerful in teamfights because of his flicker ultimate. You cannot really outrun the range of his flicker ultimate. You cannot easily outrun it. That's why his teamfight potential is pretty good. He has a good amount of sustain. I recall that he can heal with one of his skill. He has very good wave clear potential thanks to his crit ability. AoE crit, by the way. His lack of sustain and his all-in nature makes him here. He can definitely use his flicker out when he's low to immediately wipe a few squishy off just one strike with his ultimate, but it's very inconsistent. And it's more consistent than Xiangyu, I would say. But he also doesn't suffer from a problem of being super susceptible to CC. He has a mobility skill sort of, but it's very slow. His movement is fairly predictable, so he can only be here, I would say. His ultimate make him a decent team fighter, and he's mediocre in all other fields. But he has one glaring weakness is that he's extremely scared of Liang. Usually I play Liang, and if you out onto Xiangyu just before he uses his ultimate, he will just immediately die because he will basically cancel out his ultimate damage immunity, and then he will just die because it's like super low. Just hit him once and he will die. So, but if you don't CC him during his ultimate, if you don't have a Liang, if you don't have a donghuang, and you let him use his ultimate, then he can deal crazy amount of damage. But if he didn't use his ultimate before he get bursted down, then he's useless, right? So he's just way too inconsistent, same as this guy over here, which is why I would say he's more consistent than this guy, but overall suffer from the issue of being too inconsistent. Next will be Yangjian. I would say this guy is he the last Clash Lane hero? He is. I don't want to rate Zhuangzhou. I've never seen a Zhuangzhou in high elo. Yeah, he's actually the last Clash Lane though. I would say he's He's here, I think. Before lixin. Wait, maybe above lixin. I'll say it's somewhere here. Okay, maybe actually, you know what? I give him less credit than what he is, I think. Cause in the China tier list, right, everybody says D tier, D tier, D tier. But I've seen very good yangjian out there who are able to land their S1 very accurately. Their S2 very accurately. Sorry, is it the S1 or S2? Because I'm mixing him up with Voka from AOV. I think his S1 is the hand that move forward. Yes, his S2 is the AOE CC, fan shape CC. So a good yangjian, I've seen a lot of good yangjians out there who can use their flicker S2 very well and can land their S1 very accurately. If you can do that, then yangjian, if you can do that consistently, then yangjian will honestly be up here. But because his S1 is fairly inconsistent and it's over reliance of flicker, S2 to S2 is enemy. Because if you just use your S2, you won't really be able to hit your enemy. You pretty much need to use your flicker S2 because his S2 has such short range. Because of his reliance on those skills, I can only put him here. He have good wave clear, he have good sustain thanks to his very short cooldown ultimate. But he's way too reliant on flicker. And he can't really assassinate enemy backline easily because his S1 move in a straight line. Even if you have crazy accuracy, it's not always that you can actually find a straight path to the enemy carry. You can certainly just S1 onto the enemy tanks and use your AoE damage from your ultimate to hit the enemy backline. But that way, you won't be able to deal a lot of damage. He's basically there as a tank, I would say. More than an assassin, he's there as a tank. But again, his tankiness is a lot less than these guys over here. And his threat to the enemy backline is a lot less than these guys. He's comparable to Siming in that he's pretty tanky, he has good wave clear. He has decent mobility, not as high as this guy, but he has decent mobility thanks to his S1. And he has good tankiness, I would say, because of his high resistance. He's either here or here. He's either here or here. I would say it's before Siming. No, actually he's higher than Siming. I'm sick of Siming going clash lanes. He's more suitable to a xiangyu. Siming is also very easily kiteable. This guy is not that kiteable thanks to his ultimate being a range skill. So you can target enemy like a Marco even from a range. Yeah, so for that reason, I'll put him at the top of B tier. But he has a glaring weakness is that he's quite easily kiteable and his S1 is pretty inconsistent. So that's why I can only put him here. Wow, this tier lane needs to change a bit. There's no one here. Okay, let's just try to make it a little bit better. There's a lot more heroes in B tier. I would say something like that, a bit more fair. And move her Charlotte down here. Let's see. Guanyu. Oh man, Guanyu has such a high skill ceiling though. Unfortunately, the average skill is not that good. So I can only put him here, even though he's definitely like very dependent on the enemy, the handler's skill. So that's why he's situational. But overall, I'll say he's in C tier. Xiangyu, wow. No, I'll say Xiangyu is in B tier. Maybe Yangjian, I'll build him bottom of A tier. Nah, I cannot put him in A tier. I would say that this is pretty much the tier list overall. These are some of the meta heroes out there. If you want to rise up in rank, use these guys. And even some of these guys are good. Mulan just requires too much practice for me to recommend. But all of these guys are pretty good. These 8 guys over here, if you want to rank up, just play these 8 guys. Alright, and if you are playing competitively, right, just go for these guys as well. I don't think you should go for Lam. Lam is better in the jungle, as I mentioned before. Just go for these 7 guys. If you are playing a BO7, you will still be able to use all of them once. These guys suffer from one major problem. All of these guys suffer from one major problem, but they excel in one field. And these guys just are mediocre in all field, but or have one major weakness, like Heino. Heino is easily a tankiest out here of everybody here, but he has too many glaring weaknesses, so that's why it's in C tier. Oh man, should I put Heino? I would say Tuan is above Heino. I don't know, man. I think in high elo, Tuan is better than Heino, because in high elo people know to just avoid Heino, but in low elo, the enemy will try to gank Heino. Everybody will try to gank Heino, and then they'll find that they fail, and Heino just wastes a lot of their time. But in high elo, people just ignore Heino. I think this is a full tier list. Alright, let me know if you have any disagreements, or if you think that any of these heroes should be, the position should be moved. Alright, I'll see you guys on the marksman tier list. Bye for now.